Hey guys, it's Jambros, and I am back with another video in my series of Phase 3 and Phase 4 loot guides for physical DPS. Today I'll be returning to the Warrior class and be reviewing the arm spec. Hopefully this guide will give you a good idea of which of these new items will be useful for you now and in the future. Go into the different sims, parameters, general methodology. I used Grok's Empire's TBC DPS Warrior sim. All of these done as a human warrior with a 180-second fight duration, just like I've used for all the other class loot guides to keep an accurate comparison between them. It's all purely single target, which I know warriors may not like since they're such a strong cleave class, but this is done with boss damage in mind. The sim targets are all 7700 armor and humanoid with all appropriate cooldowns, raid and party buffs, and debuffs. Battle trinkets are not used in the case of these sims, especially since Warcraft logs just blacklisted them not too long ago. The top 3 items of the tier per slot will be simmed for comparison. Some exceptions for like the rings and trinket combinations. They'll use complete gear sets and don't just sim individual items. For example, when swapping pieces for testing, item slots may be changed to keep a maximum DPS output. For example, to keep a 2-piece or 4-piece bonus, or changing gems around to optimize around a hit rating. The tier 5 BIS is kind of simulating the opening of Mount Hyjal and Black Temple, and what will be the largest upgrades right off the bat. They will use rare gems, except for the items that is being changed in. These will use epic gems. Tier 6 BIS is used to simulate the end of the tier and how much of an upgrade or downgrade certain items will be in a final gear set. These use epic gems in all slots without exception. This is our talent spec. This is a very standard arm spec with sword. Swords are the best in this tier, but if for some reason you ended up having to use maces or axes, then you'd move this point to that specialization instead. Here's the tier 5 BIS. Note that I did use Ancestral Ring and Bracers of Eradication instead of Reciprocity and Bladespire warbands. The difference was just 1 or 2 DPS, and the setup doesn't require world boss loot. The tier 6 BIS here, this does use the 4-piece bonus. You might notice all these red gems here and in the last slide and think, wait, don't warriors gem for crit? And you'd be right, mostly. Strength and crit are both very valuable for arms warriors, but these guys are built around boss parsing instead of full instance damage, like say trash. If you're more focused on speed clearing, crit is the right move. Like I said earlier, these are single targets, 7700 armor, 3-minute encounters where recklessness is used. During rec, your attacks crit anyway, so it devalues the stat to essentially 0 for a while it is active. Pure strength simmed higher than pure crit in these scenarios. Okay, so let's get started with the helm slot. Just like many of the other physical DPS, Curse Vision comes in at the biggest upgrade right off the bat. Illidari Shatterer is actually a great item, but suffers from having way too much hit rating on it. If you can actually make use of that hit, I definitely suggest picking it up. In full BIS, the tier 6 helm actually wins out compared to other setups. Curse Vision would actually be useful still in situations where you're fighting a low armor boss, or can make use of the hit rating, but that's a hard sell when it's straight up best in slot for numerous other classes. This will most likely be one of the slots used in acquiring your 4-piece bonus instead. There's a clear winner here for neck pieces, and it's the Choker of Serrated Blades. Armor Pen is a great stat for arms warriors, and because of using a 2-hander and not dual wielding, excess hit rating is really a wasted stat. Serrated Blade really runs away with it too once you start acquiring even more Armor Pen, and the hit becomes less and less useful. For the shoulder slot, you'll be looking to upgrade your shoulder pads with a Stranger, and if you're a blacksmith, unfortunately the Swift Steel shoulders are not very good. You can gain a few DPS by putting an epic gem in your shoulders, but there's only really one upgrade path, and it's the tier 6 shoulders. And as you can see here, the other items fall even further behind the tier 6 shoulders. Any shoulders from the ZA patch are not listed here as they are not competitive. As far as your cloaks go, you'll finally be able to replace that Vengeance Wrap from all the way back in Phase 1. In Phase 3, even though it is a minor upgrade, the Shadow Moon Destroyer's Drape is best. Upon Phase 4 release, however, Dory's Embrace becomes purchasable with Badges of Justice. And in full BIS, Dory's pulls away by more than 10 DPS. That cloak should be a day 1 purchase from Badges in Phase 4. I would still recommend picking up one of the other 2 cloaks in case of a low armor boss encounter. The chest slot will be the 3rd of your set pieces on the way to your 4-piece bonus. The Midnight Chest Guard is still a sizable 11.67 DPS upgrade, but it's simply outclassed by tier 6. If you're able to acquire neither, The Shadowtooth Trollskin Cuirass from ZA should be an easy item to get. Note that that is the leather chest from ZA and not the plate one, which is a strictly worse item. You really want to get Illidan to drop one of your tokens because any of the other items are a significant downgrade from it with the 4-piece bonus. If you are the unluckiest warrior ever, the ZA leather chest pulls a bit ahead of Midnight Chest Guard and what is otherwise full bis, mostly due to the unneeded hit rating. The wrist slot unfortunately doesn't really offer a whole lot in terms of immediate upgrades. Deadly Cuffs is flat out better than Insidious Bands for warriors, but still only offers a 2 DPS upgrade from the previous bracers. What did surprise me are these Eternium Rage Shackles, which become available in Phase 4 with only 35 badges. In Full Bis, these badge bracers really pull away. You're able to drop the hit rating and add even more armor pen against high armor bosses. These come out as almost a 9 DPS upgrade from the Deadly Cuffs. They should be a day 1 purchase in Phase 4 along with the cloak I mentioned earlier. There are only 2 upgrade options in the glove slot, even though I did include the Gauntlets of Sniping as a new option. They are the best glove option in Phase 4, and they are still very bad. 18.91 DPS loss compared to Searing Grip. The Tier 6 gloves are a minor upgrade, but will be used to gain your 4-piece, even though the Grips of Silent Justice are an overall better item. And here, in a full setup, shows how much breaking the 4-piece to use Silent Justice would cost your DPS. In terms of breaking a set bonus, 11.65 really isn't that much of a loss comparatively, but the Tier 6 gloves are easy to acquire and are definitely optimal. The Belt of 100 Deaths is still the best, just like is with all the other melee DPS. I really hope you've been able to get this item because the rest are really not very close. The 2 closest actually come in Phase 4, the Chain of Unleashed Rage, the Plate Badge Belt, and the Blade Angel's Money Belt from Nalarak and ZA. The Red Belt of Battle is still an easy option as it's BOE. The Boneweave Girdle in Phase 3 is about 4 DPS worse than Blade Angel's. The legs will be the slot you'll be aiming for as your off-piece. There are 3 really good options here. The Leggings of Endless Rage are not ideal, but still give a 12.44 DPS upgrade coming into Tier 6. Note that the Shifting Camouflage Pants are the best legs introduced in Phase 4, the ZA patch, and they come just behind the Endless Rage. The Tier 6 legs are good too, but the real big ticket item here are those Leggings of Divine Retribution. Strength, crit, and a whopping 350 armor pen. These things are awesome. You really want these. Really want these. Full Bis has the Onslaught Greaves 30 DPS behind, and the Endless Rage legs don't even come close. For the feet, the Dread Boots of the Legion is a really solid upgrade over the War Boots of Obliteration. The Shadow Master boots come close, but they're leather and bis for a lot of other classes. The soft set boots are a minor upgrade if you're not able to acquire either. In a full setup, this actually surprised me a bit. The Shadow Master boots came out about 3.5 DPS ahead. Likely because of a glut of hit rating, and dropping Dread Boots gets rid of some of that hit. Still, the Dread Boots are practically a given for warriors, so you'd have to be pretty lucky with these Shiraz boots to be able to acquire them. In Phase 2, Band of the Ranger General and the Ancestral Ring of Conquest were best in the setup. Reciprocity was an option too, but I was excluding it for not being any noticeable difference in dropping from a world boss. There are a lot of viable upgrade paths here. I've listed 6 different rings. Stormrage Signet Ring and Signet of Primal Wrath are definitely the 2 best options, but Band of the Ranger General still remains strong, and Band of the Eternal Champion and Vindicator's Band of Triumph are not one-to-one upgrades at all. Replacing the Ancestral Ring is similar, except upgrading Stormrage is even bigger. It's huge. Noticeably, the Band of Devastation is actually quite a large upgrade as well when entering with only Tier 5 gear. That ring is a real exception, as once you get more gear, it truly falls off a cliff. In full Tier 6, I put together a chart for all the different combinations. Stormrage and Primal Wrath are definitely tops, but Unstoppable Aggressor's Ring is a respectable option if you haven't been able to acquire one, and the Band of the Eternal Champion and Vindicator's Band of Triumph are very easy to get if you haven't been able to acquire either. Band of Devastation is terrible here. It really truly falls off a DPS cliff once you start gearing up through phases 3 and 4. It just didn't make the chart. For the trinkets, DSC is still the king. for an Arms Warrior, but the other 4 all remain respectable options alongside it. Madness of the Betrayer is technically your second best, but Berserker's Call in Phase 4 comes very close, only 5 DPS less, and is very useful in a setup against low armor bosses. Hunters might hate you if you have it, but the Servant Spine Longbow was your Phase 2 best in slot ranged item. The Twisted Blades of Zarek from Gorefiend aren't an upgrade at all, but with the release of Phase 4, the Ancient Amani Longbow becomes a really strong option due to its armor pen stat. The other options don't really come close to the ZA bow. These are pretty big DPS losses for a ranged item. And the two-hand weapon. You'll be upgrading that Twin Blade, and you only have 2 good upgrades, but one in particular is a runaway best in slot, Cataclysm's Edge. Every Arms Warrior's dream. A massive 66 DPS increase coming out of Tier 5. In full BIS, the gap is even wider. The Season 3 two-hander is a full 55 DPS behind. There are a couple other options for two-handers, but none of them are particularly competitive. Jinrock the Great Apocalypse from ZA is not great, and Soul Cleaver from Terran Gorefiend is only an option if you're an orc and haven't been able to obtain anything else. A bit of a summary of what we went through, and these are your mostly useless items. You'll use these in almost no situation unless you're very undergeared or are gearing up a fresh alt, or haven't gotten the 100 Death Belt. You're really going to want that belt. And these are great upgrades if your BIS is not available. Hilariously, Curse Vision of Sargeras fits right in here. Shadow Moon Destroyer's Drape too. I wouldn't hold your breath for either one of those though. The Grips of Silent Justice, the Tier 6 Pants, and Unstoppable Aggressor's Ring are all good options. I especially would be aiming for Berserker's Call once Phase 4 is released. And here are your highest priority items. A lot of these will be your tier pieces, fortunately. Helm, shoulders, chest. The Choker Serrated Blades and these rings are all excellent. The Leggings of Divine Retribution are the biggest upgrade you can get that isn't named Cataclysm's Edge. And that's it. Thanks for watching. This series will be coming to an end soon with a big wrap up comparing the usefulness of these items between all the physical DPS classes. Make sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitch, come hang out or chat with me, and cross your fingers that a Warglaive drops for me. It's been 7 weeks. I'm dying over here.